Let's take another phone call. Tony in California. Welcome to Mind Your Business.
Thank you.
What's in your mind, Tony?
I was calling. I've got a growing service business, and we've been growing. About 3 years ago, we got started in this field, and we did about 250,000. Last year we did 400. This year we'll do 500, and I'm trying to scale it up, and just wondering. I mean, obviously it's growing organically, but in order to speed it up, I'm considering, either getting some debt financing or taking on equity investors. And I wanted to, just get your take on, the pros and cons of each approach, and what would you recommend?
Tony, you said it's a service business. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. We do basically hazardous waste disposal. So it's for different types of industries, such as the healthcare industry, aerospace, manufacturing, petrochem, etc.
And if you did get this influx of capital, what would you use it for?
Basically, hiring and some equipment, trucks. But the main things would be personnel.
What do you think, Lou?
Boy, I am loath to giving up equity in anything. So, I'd sort of look at it like this. Tony, it's fantastic that you've gone from $0 to $500,000 in 3 years. I think that's great stuff. Are you profitable today?
Yes, we've been profitable since the beginning.
Cool. And are you paying yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. So how many employees do you have now, sir?
I've got one full-time and, let's see, 1, 2, 4 part-time.
Okay. And to scale this up to, let's say, $1 million, what kind of headcount do you need?
Oh, I think I could just get another full-time person and possibly one and a half.
Okay. And the one and a half would cost you what?
Probably 100 to 125.
Okay. So is the issue having the cash to fund it, or is the issue being able to find the one and a half people?
It's the cash to fund it. It's just kind of an awkward stage between, me being out and doing some field work. I mean, it's harder to drive it with me having to be out in the field as opposed to getting, these people on board. But then when I do, it kind of gets it into that awkward, cash flow stage.
Okay, so I would always look at it like this. If you can't fund it yourself, if you can't fund it internally and you're profitable, you got to be careful about any debt you might take on, because now you've got debt and you've got the payroll to cover. And you're probably not going to put on revenue the day you bring on the new person or persons. So you're going to have a gap. You're going to have a gap in the middle, right? So you got to say to yourself, what's my debt service going to be, and what's the cost of the individual versus when am I going to start to get a return on the debt and the individual? That's number one. Number two, if you're forced to take on equity so you don't have debt payments, you need to make sure, and people may not agree with me, but you need to make sure that you have the right to convert that equity back to yourself at a set price within a set time frame. Because if you're going to grow the business, why in God's name would you want to share that with anybody? But I would still be careful. I would be careful to do either. You've done a pretty good job going from 0 to 500. Why don't you just be a little more selective and not take on the debt and not take on the partner and grow organically and get to 600 or 650 next year? Doesn't have to be $1 million company tomorrow. Get to $1 million in 3 years organically with no debt, That would make me feel better. But you sound like a young man that wants to get there yesterday.
Okay.
What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I like that. You're right on that. Good call. But going back to, you mentioned the equity part. If I did explore that, you mentioned being able to convert that equity by buying it out. So how would something like that be structured?
Oh, I don't know. It would have to be whatever works for you. But let's say you think you need $100,000. So if you think you need $100,000, you really need to get 150 or more, because no one's ever right with their first estimate. And then let's say you're going to give up 25% for $150,000. I would suggest you put something in place with whoever your quote-unquote equity investor is that says you can buy back that 25% for $200,000 within 36 months, 48 months, 60 months, something.
Lou, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Tony, thank you very much for your phone call.